He never saw the door swing open. He was far too busy being admired. He glowed next to his new muse, as if his former life was nothing but a forgotten dream. But when she walked in, the woman he thought he had successfully cast aside, the entire hall seemed to hold its breath, a deep blue dress, a prominent belly, and a new man by her side. That's when Marcus Thorne froze. Because a fortune is built with money, but dignity, that only survives when you remember who was there when no one else was looking. The event was an annual affair, but this year was different. The Centennial Gala of the American Tech Innovators Guild had brought together entrepreneurs, politicians, investors, and the biggest names of the global elite. A black-tie ball in Washington, D.C., held inside the newly restored Andrew W. Mellon Auditorium, with an exclusive guest list of only 200 people from across the country. Marcus Thorne arrived as if he owned the night. As the CEO of one of the most valuable companies in the Americas, he walked through a sea of camera flashes with a practiced smile and the posture of a man who knows exactly what he wants and who he's willing to take with him. At his side was Chloe Sterling, 32 years old, a specialist in personal branding, recently acclaimed for a rebranding project for political candidates. She was beautiful, sharp, effortlessly exuberant. Her single-shoulder gown of gold satin made heads turn and cameras follow. Their entrance was perfectly choreographed, a brief pause at the top of the grand staircase, calculated smiles, quick poses for the photographers. Marcus raised his champagne flute, lifting his gaze as if to say, "I've arrived exactly where I always meant to be." Everything was under his control. Or so he believed. The Master of Ceremonies announced the evening's award recipients, while a string quartet filled the vaulted hall with music. Marcus moved through the crowd, dispensing greetings, remarks, and charm with the skill of someone who had built an impeccable reputation, even if it was on a foundation of broken pieces. But like any poorly built structure, something trembled in the foundation of his confidence, something he thought he had buried deep, because some silences only seem harmless until they decide to speak again, out loud. Eleanor Vance never wanted to be the center of attention. An urban planning architect, the daughter of a public school teacher and a retired Navy officer, she grew up surrounded by books, blueprints, and freshly brewed coffee. She met Marcus in college, back when he was selling computer accessories from a makeshift cart in the university courtyard. It was Eleanor who revised his first investment pitch. She was the one who designed his initial presentations, who suggested the name for the startup that would one day become an empire. Back then, they shared a tiny 400-square-foot apartment and celebrated every single sale like it was a major victory. She was the calm mind behind his chaotic ambition. While he dreamed big, she was the one building the ground beneath his feet. Their closest friends used to say that Marcus could only fly so high because he knew he had a safe place to land, and that place was her. But as the company grew, the distance between them expanded. The meetings got longer. The invitations for her became fewer. Marcus started making decisions on his own. Partnerships, new hires, even the move to a new penthouse in New York City. All of it happened without consulting her. Eleanor tried to understand. She told herself it was just the price of success. But over time, she realized she was no longer part of the equation. She wasn't invited to industry events anymore. In interviews, he would mention an invisible force by his side, but he never said her name. Worse than being forgotten was being elegantly erased. A type of exclusion that doesn't scream but hurts more deeply, because it happens in front of everyone and no one seems to notice. And still, Eleanor stayed, because love can take a long time to accept that it has turned into silence. The pharmacy test left no room for doubt. 2 red lines. Eleanor was pregnant. She sat on the cold bathroom floor with a shy smile and silent tears. After everything, this felt like a sign. Maybe this was what they needed to finally see each other again, not just with their eyes, but with their hearts. She prepared the announcement with care. She ordered a mug with the phrase "Father of the Year," wrapped the ultrasound picture in recycled paper, and wrote a short note. "Someone new is coming to share the world with us." Marcus opened the box during dinner, read the note, smiled faintly, and only said, "Are you sure about this?" Eleanor responded with a firm nod. He replied, "Okay, we'll talk about it later." But later never came. In the days that followed, Marcus started sleeping at the office, using meetings and different time zones as an excuse. The topic of the baby became a non-issue. Nothing about names, nothing about doctors, no questions, no touch. And then the news broke, a notification on her phone. Marcus and Chloe would be appearing together at the International Innovation Forum in Dubai. Eleanor was 11 weeks pregnant. Marcus didn't say a word before he left. When he returned, he brought her a gift, a necklace as modern and cold as its packaging. "For you. Chloe helped me pick it out. I thought it was very you." Eleanor forced a smile. Inside, something shattered. It wasn't just the physical betrayal, it was the realization that he already saw himself somewhere else, and that she, even pregnant with his child, was no longer part of his plan. Because worse than being cheated on is being forgotten as if you never existed. Eleanor didn't beg for an explanation. For weeks, she tried to maintain her routine, even as everything inside her felt suspended in time. The second trimester ultrasound happened without him. The doctor asked with forced kindness, "Couldn't Dad make it?" Eleanor smiled with effort. "He's traveling for work." But what hurt wasn't his physical absence. It was his utter disinterest. Not one text message, not a single "Is everything okay?" Just silence, as if her pregnancy was a clerical error he hadn't yet figured out how to file away. Gradually, her invisibility became official. In the company's executive team group chat, which she was still a part of by convention, her access was temporarily suspended due to restructuring. On the company website, her bio as a co-founder had vanished. In its place, Chloe Sterling was listed as the Director of Reputation and Strategic Image. Photos of them started popping up in business magazines and on social columnists' feeds. "The new power couple of the digital elite," one headline read. Eleanor read it sitting on her balcony, hands on her belly, the wind rustling through her hair. She didn't cry anymore. Crying takes energy, and she only had enough to get through the day without falling apart. Her family asked questions. She deflected with half answers. The loneliness didn't scream. It just whispered, and it whispered all the time. One morning, opening her closet, she saw the navy blue dress she had worn to the dinner celebrating the company's first round of funding. It had been stored away for years. The dress was still there, but she no longer saw herself in it. It was on that day she finally understood. She wasn't just being betrayed, she was being replaced in her life, in her work, in her own story. And the cruelest part, her own child was already just a footnote in the script Marcus was writing all by himself. Eleanor stopped trying to talk to him. She stopped waiting for him to come home with eyes that could truly see. Because some absences don't ask for permission. They just walk in and rearrange everything. Have you ever had to pretend to be strong, just so you wouldn't break down in front of others? Have you ever felt that even when you were present, you were treated as if you didn't exist? If that's ever happened to you, just comment below with the word yes. It's simple, but it shows me that you're out there, and that you didn't go through it alone. The first few mornings were empty. Eleanor would wake up not knowing what to do with her time. No job, no routine, no Marcus. With a body that was growing and a mind that was shrinking each day, she felt like a house being slowly invaded by the mold of abandonment, until a different kind of notification appeared in her inbox. It was a newsletter from an old affordable housing project she had volunteered for early in her career. At the bottom, a short, almost casual message. "We're getting the old team back together, looking for minds with a social vision. If you need a place to breathe, there's room for you here. D. The sender, Leo Martinez." Marcus's former partner pushed out of the company years earlier over ethical disagreements, or so the rumor went. At the time, Eleanor never knew the full story. She just remembered he vanished from the scene overnight. She thought about ignoring it, but late that afternoon she replied, "I need to breathe." 2 days later, she met Leo in a decommissioned school in a reclaimed warehouse district, now converted into a design studio. No ID badges, no red carpets, just peeling paint on the walls, repurposed wooden tables, people laughing out loud and sketching ideas on butcher paper. Leo didn't ask a single question about Marcus, or about the pregnancy. He simply showed her the rooms, introduced her to the team and said, "Stay as long as you want. Around here, you don't have to prove you deserve to exist." Eleanor didn't know how to thank him. She just stayed. At first, she just observed. She would sit in a corner and sketch floor plans with no commitment. But slowly, she started to offer suggestions, to share her opinions, to feel like part of something that didn't require a disguise. In that space, nobody knew her as Marcus's wife. There, she was just Eleanor, with all her talents, pains, and silences. Her belly grew, and with it, a new life grew inside, and another one grew outside. She started eating better, walking without checking her phone every 2 minutes. She started to laugh, slowly, like someone reawakening forgotten muscles. Leo treated her with a genuine kindness, the kind that expects nothing in return. A cup of tea before a meeting, a gentle "take it easy" after a long day. No intrusions, just presence. There was no romance, not yet, but there was respect. And when you come from a place where you've been erased, being seen is the first step toward existing again. Eleanor was far from whole, but for the first time in a long time, she felt she could grow without apologizing for taking up space. The invitation arrived via text, as if nothing had ever happened. "The Guild Gala is on Saturday. I was told you still have a lifetime invitation. Do you want to go?" Eleanor didn't reply right away. She set her phone down and stared at her cup of tea, the steam rising in a spiral, as if time itself was hesitating along with her. That gala was symbolic. It was the same event where, years ago, she and Marcus had been honored as the couple of the future. He for his innovation, she for the human-centered architecture that gave his projects a soul. Now, she was just a footnote in his biography. That night, she took the deep blue dress from her closet. It still fit. It draped over her belly in a way that was unexpectedly beautiful. For the first time, she looked in the mirror and thought, "I don't have to look like anything. I just have to be." Leo picked her up at 7 p.m. sharp. He wore a blazer worn at the shoulders and a quiet smile, like a man who knows that strength isn't in the shine, but in the steadfastness. They arrived without fanfare, but as Eleanor stepped out of the car, the entire hall seemed to catch its breath. The camera flashes redirected their hunger, a visible pregnancy. A calm gaze, on the arm of a man no one expected to see there again. Inside, Marcus was talking with sponsors, Chloe at his side. When he saw Eleanor, he froze. The glass he was holding slipped from his fingers. The sound of it shattering on the marble floor cut through the room with more force than any announcement could. Eleanor didn't rush her pace, nor did she hesitate. She walked to the center of the hall, greeted those who deserved it, ignored those who had ignored her before. Her presence was the only statement needed, and in that moment, Marcus understood. She hadn't come to compete or to provoke. She had come because she could, and because after everything, simply standing tall was the greatest answer he would never be able to give. Marcus approached her minutes later, alone. There were no more cameras around him, no applause, no charm. Just him, the silence, and the woman he once called invisible, now impossible to ignore. "You came," he said, his voice low like someone afraid of hearing their own guilt. Eleanor simply nodded. The blue dress moved gracefully, despite the weight of her belly. She didn't look exhausted. She looked certain. "I wanted to talk, to explain things," he tried. "You don't have to," she replied. "I came for me, Marcus, not for you." He stared at the floor for a few seconds, then at her face, and finally, at the man by her side. Leo remained silent, at a respectful distance. Marcus continued, "Do you hate me?" Eleanor sighed. "There was a time I hated myself for still expecting something from you." From her purse, she pulled out an envelope. "These are the divorce papers. Sign them whenever you're ready. No fight, just peace." He took it with trembling hands. For the first time in years, he had nothing to say. Eleanor turned and walked away with the same tranquility she had arrived with. She returned to Leo's side and gently touched his arm. There was no audience. There was no shouting. Just the truth hanging in the air, too clear to be denied. While Marcus stood frozen, the envelope in his hand and a lost look in his eyes, Eleanor sat down at one of the tables and smiled. A small but complete smile. She didn't need to defeat anyone, because to be alive, clear-headed, and in command of herself, after so much silence, that was victory enough. For a long time, Eleanor thought love was synonymous with waiting. Waiting for the other person to look your way again. Waiting for the rough patch to end. Waiting for what was once beautiful to find its way back. But the truth is, sometimes waiting too long for someone else means abandoning yourself. Marcus didn't leave all at once. He dismantled his presence in silence, like someone rearranging the furniture in a house and hoping no one will notice. And Eleanor, out of love, kept adapting, until she almost didn't fit inside her own story anymore. But there comes a point when silence stops being a shield and becomes a prison. At that point, you either scream or you disappear. Eleanor didn't scream. She rebuilt, without scandal, without revenge, without needing to prove a thing, because you don't shout your dignity, you walk with it. And when you start walking with your head held high again, the entire world is forced to remember the person they tried to forget. In the end, it wasn't about revenge, it was about presence, about existing again, about being seen first by herself and then by the rest of the world. If this story touched you in any way, go ahead and hit that like button. It's the simplest way to show me it's worth continuing to bring stories like this to you. And let me know in the comments what city you're watching from. Seriously, I read every single one, and I make a point to reply to those who take a moment to connect with me here. If you believe in the power of a fresh start, hit that subscribe button. Every new subscriber gives me the strength to continue this journey. And don't go just yet. Choose one of the 2 stories I've left for you on the screen. I'll see you in the next video.